Why, hello there, you lovely human. It's My Life here, and I'm going to talk to you today about how I got over the idea of passing. Now, this is a very serious topic for me personally, and just to give you a bit of background about myself, I've been out publicly as a transgender woman for 3 years now. Yeah, as of 2 days ago, it's been a year. Sorry, been 3 years. So technically, it's 4 years because I came out to my mother in 2013 and came out publicly through Facebook on 2014. Passing for me was only a problem very early on in my transition when I was still very paranoid about the idea of, actually being trans. It was difficult for me to kind of get past the idea of passing because I could only see what I was seeing in the mirror every day and hate it. A lot of my early experiences kind of coming to terms with being transgender was getting past what I was seeing in the mirror and finding that there was more to me than that, and there was more to find beautiful and attractive than what I was seeing in the mirror at that given point in time. And honestly, I'm pretty lucky to look the way that I do. And, I'm not trying to be egotistical or brag or anything, but that's just a truth. I look very good for all intents and purposes. And it's not just the makeup, though it does definitely help, but just the way my height, my general build. I do have very broad shoulders, but just the shape of my body and just my general height, which is, I'm fairly sure I'm 5'6". It kind of all works in my favor, and I do have pretty good genes too. Those things did help, but what I actually want to talk to you guys about is how I got past all of those roadblocks that would keep me from kind of embracing myself as a female and learning how to just function as a trans woman in everyday society. So for those who aren't familiar with the term passing, what that term generally means is identifying as the gender that you, identifying and presenting as the gender that you personally identify with in the face of society telling you that you aren't that gender, whether it be from people who knew you from your past or just people who are seeing you in the street and calling you out as something that you're not. And this goes both ways, whether you identify as female or male or something in between. Generally people want to look and present themselves in a way that will pass in society so that they can go about their business without having to be harassed or murdered. These things are real issues that trans people, and not just trans people, but other people as well, have to deal with. The whole idea of passing is a very, very serious topic, and I feel that I wanted to at least share a bit of my experiences of how I was able to overcome that. And I know that some of you may be thinking that hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, was the way that I was able to overcome that. I'll get into that later in the video of how HRT actually did help, but it really wasn't how I generally figured it out and was able to get past the idea of passing in society. So one of the first things that I started doing very early on in my transition, after I came out publicly, was I deliberately put myself in uncomfortable positions. And I know that may sound counterproductive, but it helped me in a lot of ways. One of the first things that I started doing when I started down that path was I gradually started reducing the amount of makeup that I was wearing. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned it earlier, I spent a year before I came out publicly kind of working on myself, and one of those things that I was doing was working on my makeup technique before I came out publicly. If you saw my coming out video, which is on this channel, you can see what my makeup was like back then, and the lighting was super horrible. So you can just see like how early I was in my makeup technique even back then. Been hired at a job in New York City. I was wearing a lot of makeup every day, but I was taking the trains and I was taking the subways, and I was wearing a lot of makeup every day so that I could feel comfortable with myself. But what I started doing as just a mental test was to reduce the amount of makeup that I was wearing every day. So I would go into work on Monday looking like a bombshell, looking like I do right here, and then Tuesday I would reduce it, and then Wednesday I would reduce it, and then Thursday I'd wear even less, and Friday I was basically just kind of bare bones, just basic cover-up, some eyeliner, and that was it. And that was just to kind of put myself in a position where I knew for myself that I was female. And regardless of how much makeup that I was wearing, that I was who I was, regardless of, looking like 100% every day, because women do that all the time. What I also did was I started wearing less makeup around my friends. So, I had a very good support base even before I came out publicly, and what I did to kind of put myself in a better position of confidence was to entrust them to acknowledge me as Nina, as a female, even when I wasn't wearing any makeup at all. And I would put myself in these positions, even though it was super uncomfortable for me, that it really did help kind of reaffirm myself as a female, and not having to rely on the physical so much. This brings me to my next point, which is I started focusing a lot more on my mental transition, my mental and emotional transition. By doing this, it was enabling me to feel in my mind and in my heart that everything that I was accepting about myself as being transgender, as being female, was real. And it's very common for trans people to put a lot of emphasis on their physical appearance. It's just a given. We see ourselves in the mirror every day, and we struggle with how we look, we struggle with dysphoria, and the physical is really, that's the first thing people see every day when they look at us. So, by nature, it's normal to put a lot of emphasis on the physical first and foremost. But what I had to do was get past that, to not put so much emphasis on the physical, so that I could focus on internally, who I was on the inside and who I am on the inside. It's so very important to do that first, and the physical, that's a given, but you can't really get to a point of confidence in yourself until you work on your your mental transition first, because that's where everything happens. That's what drives your actions. That's what drives your identity. It's all up here and here. So doing that and working on that was super, super necessary for me in that regard. There are some ways that I was able to do that, aside from reducing how much makeup that I was wearing, as well as spending time with my friends without wearing makeup. What I also did was I reaffirmed myself. I would look at myself in the mirror and I would call myself Nina and find things about myself that I liked about myself, that was pretty, and that made me feel pretty, and that I knew that I could work on. There are some women who are muscular, who have broad shoulders, and that doesn't make me any less of a woman, and those are the things that I had to tell myself to kind of get myself to a place where I wasn't doubting myself, as well as to love myself. Because loving yourself, oh my gosh, the idea of loving yourself was so lost on me for most of my life. I didn't know how to love myself, and working on my mental transition or my physical really helped me to learn how to love myself and find ways that I could be happy with myself beyond just the clothes that I was wearing and the makeup that I thought that I knew how to do fairly well at the time. And also, HRT did help in that regard, because HRT does have therapeutic effects on the body, especially if you are struggling with dysphoria. It definitely does reduce it changes the body, as well as it helps to reduce the amount of dysphoria that one has in the mind, and has calming effects as well. And this is what I kind of mentioned in my hormones video, and being off those hormones has been difficult, but it is bearable since I did live this way for so many years. But the effects of HRT and taking estrogen is undeniable, and it really, really does help. Another thing that I did to get past the idea of passing was to work on my voice. I'm a voice actress, so I really did I put the time into arriving at a voice and a tone and a cadence that fit me personally. Having to think as little about your identity as possible is very much key. And for me, as a voice actress, as a voice talent, my voice was very much an important aspect of me getting past the idea of having to think about not being able to function in society or being called out for being something that I'm not. Working on my voice was, for me, something that I did to get past the idea of passing, and working on my voice took me I would say about a year of consistent practice. I probably practiced maybe around 30 minutes every day, and what I would do is I would listen to other women. I was listening to other women to begin with. As a voice talent, listening is very important. As an actress, listening is very important as well as watching. So I was already kind of doing those things from the very beginning. I was putting a lot more attention on what they were saying and how they were saying it, and those things, and listening to how I've spoken over the course of those years, and trying to come up with something that fit me personally, fit my personal identity. I wasn't trying to copy someone, but I wanted to basically build a character from the bottom up, which is what you do as a voice talent. So I spent about a year just figuring that out. And this is generally, I would say it's gotten more refined after that year's time. My voice has become a little bit more refined, and my range of feminine voice has become wider with time through doing audiobooks and such. But working on my voice really did help me to think less about who I was as a person and get past the idea of passing. I'd love to talk to more of you about how I worked on my voice and all that, but if that's something you're interested in hearing about, let me know. Let me know in the comments. I observed other women and what they did and how they acted, and also just using their lived experiences as a way to justify my own. Because as a woman, I feel that despite who I am and how I've had to live for 20 some odd years until I start my transition, my experience is just as valid as any other female, any other biological female who lived their entire life knowing who they are and feeling comfortable with who they are. My experience is just as valid as theirs are. But for me personally, I wanted to further understand what my experiences were and how I could frame my experiences in a way that justified my own. Ways that I was able to do that was acknowledging the fact that women can dress super casual. I would see women on the streets of New York City, and some women were well put together, some women were in shorts and like a crop top, or they were just wearing a cami. Like, it's really, it's so varied. Like, women have so many different reasons for wearing the clothes that they wear, and it doesn't matter what they're wearing. If they're like in baggy pants and a baggy sweatshirt, that doesn't make them any less female. And I had to understand up here that is how women live. Women aren't looking like 100% all the time. That's crazy. Women have the different clothes that they wear for different types of occasions, and that doesn't make them any less female. And I had to get past the idea of like, I have to look 100% all the time. I always have to look like a female. I have to dress in a dress. I have to wear a skirt. I have to always wear heels or nice shoes. Like, no, you can dress casually, super casual, wear little to no makeup, and you're still gonna be a female regardless. And I just had to get past that point in my mind to acknowledge that for my own lived experience and apply that to myself so that I could further my mental transition in a way that was healthy and didn't hurt my personal experiences and didn't, disavow my personal experiences as well. So that's really all I have for you guys today. That's generally how I was able to overcome the idea of passing, and I hope that what I shared with you today was very helpful. I know this is a very kind of more down-to-earth video, and I'm generally a very down-to-earth person, so these videos are a lot easier for me to share with you guys and share with you my personal experiences and how I was able to overcome the trials that I faced, coming into my own as a woman and just feeling more comfortable and happy and confident in myself as a female. If you guys have anything to say, if you have any other experiences, if you want to share with me how you got over passing, how you matured as the gender that you identify as, I would love to hear it in the comments, so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation with you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a like. It definitely helps. And if you want more of these videos, or if you have something that you would like for me to talk about, leave it in the comments below, and definitely subscribe so that I can, so I know that you guys want more of these videos and that you guys are really enjoying what I'm putting out to you. So that's all I got for you, and until next, you lovely human.